So you have been running Facebook ads and launched your remarketing campaigns at a low scale, but the performance has been super good, and now you want to scale it a little bit more and you want to kind of see, okay, what are my options here? So this is exactly what this video is for. If you're an e-commerce brand wanting to maybe go from spending maybe 50, 100 bucks per day to maybe like $200, $300, $400 per day, then this is the right place. Now let's hop straight into it. Hey everybody, and welcome back to this video. My name is Victor, and this channel is all about e-commerce growth and how to grow your e-commerce brand more sustainably and profitably in those uncertain times. So in case you want to know more about this and this is somewhat interesting to you, then make sure to check out my channel and maybe hit the subscribe button right below. It really helps more than you could ever imagine. However, for today, our topic is what to do and how to scale your Facebook ads or marketing campaigns. And obviously then, you could also venture into taking a look at prospecting when you have been successfully running, well-performing Facebook ads or marketing campaigns. But for today, we're just going to keep it at talking about scaling your Facebook ads remarketing campaigns. So before we talk about this, let's take a step back. And that is because, for most brands out there, I usually recommend, or every brand out there, in my opinion, should be running some form of Facebook ads remarketing and should have some kind of Facebook ads remarketing setup running and live in their account. And therefore, I often then encounter brands that have had, those Facebook ad remarketing campaigns running at a profitable spend, and they had been managed pretty well. So now they want to go ahead and take the next step, allocate some more budget to those remarketing campaigns, or maybe venture even into prospecting and reaching out to cold audiences. So this is what we're going to talk about. But as I said, we're just going to keep it for within our remarketing, within the kind of limits of the remarketing campaign only. We have had our remarketing campaigns running for a good amount of time, and they've been performing pretty well. Now we want to scale that. Before we are thinking about what to actually do now, we need to understand two particular things. The first one is our natural paid traffic ceiling. You generally always have a natural paid traffic ceiling also when you're going for broad prospecting ads. However, this is much more immediate when you only run towards remarketing audiences, meaning people that have engaged with you and your brand prior or in the past, or yada yada yada. And what does that mean? It means generally that your target audience is limited. Obviously, you don't have an unlimited, infinitive amount of people that have engaged with your brand or that will ever engage with your brand. You have an infinitive amount of people in the world in general, and just a really, really tiny portion of that has ever engaged with your brand. And therefore, you want to understand, or you need to understand before thinking about scaling your marketing campaigns, that this will be, something that you will need to have in the back of your mind, that okay, my remarketing audiences are really limited, and then how this then ultimately affect your campaign's performance. So that is the first thing that you need to understand. The second thing is the nature of probability of conversion. What do I mean with that? Okay, so if I have engaged with your product, or if I've been browsing through your website and viewed a couple of products and maybe even added one product to cart yesterday, then I'm really, really much more likely to convert with you today than someone that has liked your ad, or engaged with your Instagram profile 90 days ago, right? So therefore, you really want to understand those two things, because they're also really correlated, right? Because the shorter the time frame, the smaller your marketing audience. The larger the time frame, the less likely is your target audience to actually then also be converting with you, meaning your conversion rate will, and your click-through rate will most likely go down, while however your scale will be able to go up. So those are the two things that you really genuinely need to understand before starting to run and scale your Facebook remarketing ad campaigns. So two metrics that are native to Facebook ads, to the Facebook ads dashboard, that are really representative representative of those two phenomena are, your CPM, meaning your cost per mil, your cost to reach 1,000 people on Facebook's platforms, and your frequency, meaning how often on average does one particular person sees your ad, or is, is your ad being displayed to this particular person, right? The reason being why CPM, for example, is, really representative for this first phenomena of the size of your, remarketing audience is because usually on average, there are exceptions to this rule, but on average, the smaller your target audience, the higher your CPM. Meaning if you're retargeting people that have engaged generally with your brand either on socials or and on your website the last 180 days, your CPM, meaning the money you spend in order to reach those people, will usually be lower than your CPM to reach people that have added something to cart in the last 7 days. Okay, so usually when you then go ahead and want to scale your remarketing audiences, you allocate more budget to what has already been working. So let's take a particular example for that. So you have been running Facebook ads remarketing campaigns with for the last 3 months, with $100 budget per day to people that have engaged with your brand in general in the last 7 days, right? It doesn't matter whether they have engaged with your Instagram profile, Facebook profile, or have added something to cart on your website, okay? So now you think, okay, you know what? Like over the last 3 months, this has really been working great. It has been producing the sales at the desired CAC that I want to have it, and it's really kind of adding, a good amount of growth to my general growth trajectory for my e-commerce brand. And I want to scale those marketing efforts because they have provided the return on investment that I need and that I desire, and therefore you want to then go ahead and bump up that budget from, from $100 to $200. What can happen is then, kind of what will, depending on also how big your target audience is there, is that your frequency will actually go too high, right? And this will lead to a couple of consequences. Usually your performance will drop to a certain degree if people are, getting ad fatigue a lot quicker, meaning and like your frequency again is the amount of times an ad is being displayed to one particular person. Meaning if, for example, then you allocate double amount of the budget to use target audience and to reach this target audience with the same ads. So suddenly from 2 times on average, somebody sees your ad, someone sees your ad on average 4 times per day. Let's just for the sake of this example, right? And then obviously people will get more annoyed by your ads. You will have like less of a, good customer experience or consumer experience. And additionally to that, also most likely you will run into more ad fatigue, which will lead to you having to, cycle in more ad creatives, and then ultimately also lead to more creative output and creative production effort from your end of things, either internally or externally, but definitely associated with some form of resources, either monetary or in the form of time from your team. So that is kind of the first thing that will then happen as you scale, probably into an audience that usually we're not. I'm expecting or I'm calculating with a brand that does not really have a huge amount of following or engages with their brand. Obviously, this will be much less immediate, this effect, when you have like 1 million people that have engaged with your brand over the last week, right? But for the most part, probably for the brands or for the people that are watching this right now, this won't be the case. So, you then probably will see some form of increase in your frequency. And what you then want to do, if you, however, continue, to want to increase your budget to that level, you want to go ahead and broaden your remarketing window. And I'm not talking about, get into that new audience or whatever, but take the same audience that you've been retargeting for the past and go ahead and go from 7 to, let's say, 14 days, right? Only if this frequency creeps up, right? If this frequency creeps up, you want to make sure that you increase your remarketing window, your time window there from 7 to 14 days, let's say. This will lead to your remarketing audience being bigger then. However, the likelihood, if you see it kind of like as a graph, the likelihood of somebody, that has engaged with your brand 14 days ago is dramatically lower than someone that has engaged with you 3 days ago. Therefore, most likely as a result of actually kind of increasing the remarketing window from your target audience, will probably that there will be a decrease in conversion rate and a decrease in click-through rate. Okay, meaning most likely we'll have some more scale on the one hand, but on the other hand, less efficiency, right? There's this kind of scale and efficiency paradox again. So that is where you then want to find that sweet spot, right? You want to make sure that you can, get to your spending targets while still reaching at a fairly, reasonable frequency and CPM, the amount of people that are still converting with your brand and your creative at a rate that is actionable, that is actually kind of reasonable and viable for your profit targets. Okay, so this is kind of what you then want to take a look at when you scale. The first thing, okay, you've noticed that you want to scale your budget of your campaign, right? So you bump up that budget, right? And you can bump up that budget as long as the frequency and the performance keeps up, right? As long as that, you don't have to do anything apart from obviously naturally cycling and more creative somewhat here and there in order to avoid ad fatigue. But there will come eventually that moment, either performance or frequency will creep up to you. So at this point, there is where you then want to go ahead and increase the remarketing window that you're retargeting, okay? So as long as, there is literally, kind of frequency stays at a acceptable and a reasonable rate, which usually for me it's kind of last 7 days frequency is at a 3 or below, then usually I'm like, okay, we can continue to scale that because our target audience actually gives us that room to scale into. If, however, I see, okay, there's actually like really a lot of kind of increase in daily frequency, and then usually this also leads to a decrease in daily performance or weekly performance, and then I go ahead and either, increase the marketing window or really fully, completely cycle in a new set of creatives. So that is the first step that you can then go ahead and do. I would then go ahead and increase that remarketing window and do this process and really kind of then also slowly but surely move into more colder audiences. What do I mean with that? And with that, we will wrap up the video. And that is, people that are 7 days, and that have engaged with your brand for 7 days ago, especially the people that have been onto your website 7 days ago, they will most likely be actually warm audiences. What do I mean with actually warm audiences? People that remember what your brand is all about and remember engaging with your brand. Probably also the people that have engaged with you in the last 14 days. But after that threshold, people will most likely have kind of already made a buying decision whether to buy with you or not. And also then if you really go further, like 60, 90 days, probably people who don't even really remember what your brand is all about or that they have ever engaged with your brand. And therefore, a really, in my opinion, really nice and really natural and really sustainable transition from remarketing at a low scale to going into prospecting and cold audiences is really increasing your remarketing window there and changing also the way you approach those people, right? If you are engaging in remarketing and running ads to people that have engaged with your brand through other traffic sources and have stumbled upon your brand through other traffic sources in the last 7 days, there's a really different way you should approach and message those people compared to people that have engaged with your brand 90 days ago on social. Right? This is almost, in my opinion, a cold audience. They will most likely, like probability-wise, not have a clue what your brand is all about and your product values and USPs, right? Therefore, if you then feel like, okay, like I wanna go ahead and increase my traffic or my target audience ceiling there, and in order to put more money behind it, then also you want to make sure that you kind of slowly but surely drift into that cold audience messaging and do not only talk to them as if they are some warm audience. So I hope that makes sense somewhat. To just wrap it up, to recapitulate, right? As soon as you go ahead and get some good performance with your Facebook ad campaign. You want to make sure that you bump up your budget until you see that frequency really creeping up on you, and most likely also the performance kind of taking a hit here and there. Then you want to make sure that you increase your remarketing window and then the remarketing time window, while also, kind of trying to find that sweet spot between CPM, frequency, cost per click, cost of traffic, as well as from a conversion standpoint, meaning how many people, how at what rate are people converting with me. And then as you're really continuously, really honing that in and mastering that, you can slowly but surely use that as an opportunity to like think about more cold, messaging angles, right? Like cold traffic messaging angles. To an audience that is still somewhat more qualified with you, but they're probably not really remembering you or your USPs. And then, this is then the last step, in my opinion, to naturally graduate to then scaling into prospecting in completely new audiences. So with that being said, I hope this was helpful. I hope this, was kind of understandable for you. Let me know in case you have any questions right below. And if you think that it was helpful, then I would also appreciate a thumbs up. And if you want to know more about how to grow your e-commerce brand profitably and sustainably, every Thursday there comes a new video of me talking about how to grow an e-commerce brand and, kind of revealing nitty-gritty e-commerce growth hacks and implementing Facebook ads in all of that. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Really appreciate your time. Talk to you in the next one.